wanna stay ahead of the curve, then follow my words. All we do is teach, train, innovate, solve. Yeah. Teach, train, innovate, solve. If you wanna be ahead of the curve, then follow my words.
Good evening, good evening, good evening, everyone, to TTIS, where we build confident, empowered educators using practical tools that you can use today. My name is Tamara Gibson. I am a former educator and instructor of many years, seeking to continue to share my passion around the understanding of the pedagogy for those that are seeking to pass the SPED 186 exam and 4 other exams that we teach here at TTIS. But I'm here tonight to share with you some more information to help you as you prepare for SPED 186, the understanding that is needed behind specialized curriculum. That's where we're laying our hat today. We are preparing you to understand the differences between the SDI, specialized designed instruction, and then specialized curriculum. So I'm calling it the missing piece. It is more than the academics itself. Now, you have worked with students over your career. You'll probably notice that some students make good grades, but still struggle to function successfully at school. And I want you to imagine those two students. The first student earns A's in every academic class. The second student, they earn B's. And if I asked you which student needs more support, you'd probably say the student earning B's. But what if I told you that the student earning A's cannot ask for help when confused, work with classmates, independently find their next class, or tell a teacher when they need an accommodations? Would you still say that they're doing fine? Probably not. And that's exactly what tonight's conversation is about. One of the biggest misconceptions in special education is believing that if a student is successful academically, then they'll be successful overall. But the SPED 186 exam wants you to think much bigger than the academics. In fact, that's what they're testing. And we're talking about this specialized curriculum. And why some of the most important instructions we provide has nothing to do with reading, writing, or math, or any other subject for that thought. So one of the competencies that I pulled out says that candidates should demonstrate knowledge of specialized curriculum, including curriculum and specialized instructional strategies for social skills, life skills, transition, orientation and mobility, independence, and self-advocacy. And understand how this instruction should be accommodated, modified, and adapted based on the individual student's strengths and needs. That in itself sounds overwhelming. But tonight I want to simplify it with one central idea. And that is that special education curriculum teaches students the skills they need to function successfully in school, their community, and eventually adulthood. Notice nowhere in there did I say academics, because that's where many candidates get stuck. So we are going to spend time tonight covering a few things. We're going to talk about specialized curriculum, and I'm going to define it according to pieces of idea and according to a law explanation provided by a law company. Then I'm going to go into the 6 areas. I listed them during the time of talking about the competency, but I'm going to go through them intricately. Then, of course, this conversation that keeps coming up, accommodations and modifications versus something else. Tonight it's going to be adaptations. The other time it was SDI. And then lastly, but certainly not least, for those of you who are preparing for SPED 186 test, How will this competency be tested? It's going to be important for you to understand that, because the more that you get an understanding around how they will test, the more likely you will choose answers that make sense according to the need that they're expressing, the data that they provide you with, and following to figure out which action is the correct action to address said need. That's our framework. We talk about that here on our station quite a bit because that is the framework that we teach throughout our 5 courses and classes. And I want to invite you right now to our 5th class, which will be happening tomorrow night at 7 p.m. You are welcome to join us as we go through the writing portion of this competency 10. It is the 5th domain. It's the newest portion of this exam where you have to write. And we want to prepare you to know what it is that you need to be writing about. And then we will have our workshop, which is an in-person workshop that allows you 2 hours to consume information, understand how to bring that all together, and then write out your competencies. So let's jump right into our first part of tonight's conversation. And that is defining what specialized curriculum really is. Specialized curriculum is instruction designed to teach skills that are not typically taught through the general education curriculum, but they are essential because of a student's disability-related needs. And here are a few easy comparisons to help you to get a clear understanding. General education curriculum says, what should every student learn? While specialized curriculum asks, what additional skills does this individual student need to become successful? That's a completely different question. The answer is different for every student, and that's why it begins with evaluation data and the student's PLAF, their present level of academic achievement and functional performance. The curriculum follows the student's identified need, not the disability label. So although we are addressing functional performance for the students, I want to make sure that you understand exactly what that entails. If you're studying for the SPED 186 exam, you've probably seen the word functional many times. But what really does that mean? Functional skills are the everyday skills that students use to participate successfully in school. I talked about this in one of our YouTubes where we spent the entire time talking about functional performance. And I'll tag it somewhere here in order to support. But this participation, this successful participation in school, at home or community, and then later in the workplace is something that needs to be addressed. So what is preventing the student from functioning and independently? Not what subjects are they failing, or what life skill is getting in the way. So I want to just kind of bring this out with examples. And the first one I'm going to address is communication. If you imagine a student who understands every lesson but never asks questions when confused, they're academically capable? Absolutely. Are they independent? Not yet. But the specialized curriculum may focus on requesting clarification, them initiating conversations or expressing their needs, or even communicating effectively with adults and peers. Notice that we're teaching communication, not a subject like reading. My second example is organization. We've got students that forget assignments, they lose materials every day, they miss deadlines, and academically, they understand the work. But the barrier isn't the content knowledge in this instance. The barrier is the organization and executive functioning. Instruction might include things like using a planner, organizing materials, following routines. Checklists might help, and self-monitoring. Again, this is not a math intervention, but a different type of curriculum that helps to support them to grow in their understanding and their ability to function within society. And then example 3, community skills. I want you to imagine preparing to graduate. And then you cannot ride the public transportation. You have struggled to complete a job application or manage money, or even the ability to shop independently. Would giving that student an algebra instruction solve those problems? Probably not. That student needs specialized curriculum focusing on independent living and transition skills. So this exam wants you to recognize when the student's greatest need isn't academic. And sometimes the biggest barrier to success is functional performance. But as I've said many times on this channel, that it is not, I am not just here about the exam. I really want you to understand this as a special education specialist. This will be something that you're going to be seeking to support them with throughout their career, throughout your career. And so I then want to jump into the 6 types of specialized curriculum and then share a little insight for each one. And my first one is social skills. You want to help students to successfully interact with others. That's my purpose. That's my goal. I want them to recognize emotions, maybe taking turns or sharing, and even to the point of resolving conflict. Instruction in this area is usually explicit. We don't assume that students are naturally going to learn these skills. We teach them. We involve them in opportunities for them to understand their personal space. We involve them in initiating conversations and practices with them so that they are able to do so. And then life skills. These are everyday skills that we learn. But sometimes special education students, depending on their disability, have struggles with things like hygiene, dressing myself, cooking, cleaning, safety practices. These all promote independence throughout adulthood. Going to the grocery store, budgeting, all of these things will help and support in life. And that's why it's called life skills. And then transitioning. You're preparing students for life after high school. And this might look like you instructing them in regards to employment, college, vocational training. These are all options for them. Budgeting, as I said before, but talking about life skills, interviewing, and career exploration. This is where graduation is mentioned in the question, and transition should immediately come to your mind. We know that the law states that they should have transitioning within their IEP by the age of 16. There's some plan that's already set in place, but here in Texas, the age is 14 in which we start this. And then orientation and mobility. So we usually associate this with students with visual impairment. How are they going to be able to navigate the world? Are they navigating the hallways properly? Can they use their cane? Is their environment, are they aware of their environment? Are they able to cross the street properly without getting hurt? Is their route planned? This instruction is often provided by certified orientation and mobility specialists, even to the point of taking public transportation and understanding how to get from point A to point B safely. That's what's provided with orientation and mobility. And then we get to 2 very key points, in my opinion, because the whole goal is for them to go from early childhood all the way to 12th grade and be functioning well in society, and that is independence. We want to reduce the reliance on other adults helping them. Instead of waiting for reminders, we want to build students to be able to manage themselves. And what actually would that look like? Self-monitoring. We've got schedules, we've got routines, we are helping them to problem solve and complete tasks. All of these are examples of independence, ways in which they can build that. Right now, I'm just doing a list, but I definitely want to share with you ways in which we could teach all of those. Because, as I stated before, we're talking about specialized curriculum. And then one of the most empowering areas of specialized curriculum to me is self-advocacy. The student being able to understand their disability, being able to explain the accommodations and modifications that they might be receiving, requesting help, and participating in their own IEP meetings. This is the goal. The goal here really is to build their confidence, to help them with to become more independent. As I said before, these are the two that I link together, and then make informed decisions. That's what we're looking to do in these 6 areas that I mentioned. And I'll state way more in depth. If you've joined our community, I'll state way more in depth how you're able to do all of those, to attack each one of those areas, in particular, talking about ways that it's going to show on the exam, but ways it'll show in life. So in this month of July, we're going to be covering domain number 3, talking about curriculum knowledge and instructional strategies, and understanding the competencies instead of simply memorizing definitions. I would encourage you to subscribe, because every week we're going to break down some SPED 186 competency using the same decision-making process that you'll need on exam day. But remember, it's not just about exam day. I'm talking to you about real life situations that you're going to see every day in your buildings where you are serving. And I want to help to connect this. I think that the bridge of connecting it all makes it less cumbersome as you are studying for your exam. It's not just some piece of information that you're going to need just to pass the test. It is something that you're going to use throughout the life of your career. And so jumping into the next part is thinking about the questions in regards to the exam itself. Usually don't ask you what is self-advocacy. It's not going to be that simplistic, but actually they're going to ask you which instructional decision best meets the student's need. And they're going to drill it down into scenarios. Tonight, I'm using very short scenarios in order to prove my point. But I want you to know that regardless of the length of it, there are questions that you should ask yourself. So in my first scenario that I have on your screen right now, I say that a student consistently earning passing grades, but they struggle to work independently during group projects. So what really should I be asking myself? What's the barrier? In this part, the data does not assume that it's academic. Is it social interaction? Is it best instructional focus? What social skills, curriculum can you present in order to help this student to be able to connect with this group and to be able to perform properly in the group project? That's really the questions that we want to focus on. Now in scenario number 2, a student with a visual impairment has difficulty navigating unfamiliar school environments. Well, what's the barrier? It's independent travel, yes. What best curriculum can I propose? It's orientation and mobility. And as I said before, I believe I said it last week, but I know that we talked about it quite extensively when I go over the curriculum for domain number 4, and that is collaborating with other professionals. This is where I bring in an expert, way more specialized than you are as a special education specialist. They have dove deep into a particular area, and the area I would go and talk to them about is orientation and mobility. And then our third example here, we have a high school student who wants competitive employment, but has never completed an interview before. The barrier, work readiness. The best curriculum, transition. I would even say that you would add in some community type of activities where he or she can see things and experience them right then and there. That's really what you want to do. That's how you want to handle this, and in particular, understanding how to take care of that. So what I'm proposing to you in each of these scenarios is that there is a barrier that you can identify, and there is a best curriculum support that you can do. Curriculum in itself, as it says in curriculum knowledge in our title, and instructional practices. It doesn't group them together. It says the word and, because there is some best curriculum supports that I can put in place for them to access and get past the barriers. And then there are instructional practices that we can implement when it comes to academics. So that's the clarity that I want to exude for you when they're talking about this section. See, this domain 3 is worth 27% of the exam. And you are going to be required to understand the difference between both. So tonight, I'm spending time on the functional performance part, the 6 areas that I believe that if you understand and you are able to relate to, and you see some practical examples and to intertwine with, you will do well on this. And then we'll be talking about some of the instructional practices that will address the academic portions. It's about helping students successfully participate in every part of life. And when you read these scenarios, when you see this in a building, don't immediately ask, what academic intervention does the student need? I want you to ask instead, what is preventing the student from functioning as independently as they possibly can? That single question leads you directly to the best answer. That single question leads you to the best goal to assign for your students. I also want you to remember that specialized curriculum is individualized. It comes from evaluation of data. I didn't talk about a lot about that tonight. I alluded to it by talking about our framework, but you're going to take the data. It should align to the student's PLAF and their IEP goal. And it designs to remove barriers that prevent students from participating fully at school or in their community and beyond graduation. So the next time you see a question about social skills, life skills, transition, orientation, and mobility, my 2 that I believe are the 2 heaviest, independence and self-advocacy. Don't just memorize the definitions, but think about the student's functional needs, because that's exactly how special education specialists need to think. That's exactly what this exam is measuring. This is exactly what you're going to be doing for the remainder of your career as a special education specialist. See, as I said before, we're here not just to build your understanding on and around this exam, but to build you as an educator that wants to move forward, that wants to advance in their career, that sees the challenges and goes to research, to evaluate, to get where they need to get in order to help the students that they are designed to help. So, as always, we have different ways in which you can enter into our ecosystem. First way is to join our mailing list. We would love to share information with you. We share information weekly. Sometimes multiple times within the week, but we don't try to overwhelm you with information. The second way is our blueprint. We always point you there because most of the time it's just a few points that many people are missing in order to pass the exam. You are needing 240 of those 300 points in order to pass this certificate and get closer to certification. And if you are not looking at and analyzing your points and where you might be lacking the information, that's where we point you to first. It is the first part of what we do here at TTIS. Then we go on and we have been blessed to develop a cohort. And tomorrow night at 7 p.m. will be our free class that is addressing Domain 5. But it's a 5-class series in our cohort, talking about the various competency. We go through our framework, the study guide that they provide us with through the state in order to help you. Drilling down, answering questions that you might have, providing you with supports and notes in order to better assist you along the way. And then we have 2 options in person that we've developed. The first one is a 2-hour writing workshop in which we help you to use another framework that helps you to remember what to include inside of your writing section. It's the way that we combat this fear of writing. We don't spend the 2 hours just talking about information. We give you the keys through our STOP method to help you that when you walk away with a well-written 400 to 600 response, just as you're going to be asked to do on the exam. And then what we have for those that have already passed their exams are those who are curious about how to write an IEP. It's led by 2 very seasoned special education specialists that will walk you through how to write an IEP. We're going to go from start to finish so that you are prepared and ready when you yourself have to write an IEP alone. We don't want you to have to do that alone. We're providing you the guidance and giving you hands-on experience during this. That's going to happen on July the 25th. You want more information, we're going to leave that down in the details. But as I said before, the first part of getting into our ecosystem is our mailing list. You join our mailing list, you're going to get that plus much more. I want to thank you as always for spending some time with us, for being present. And you could be anywhere as you're watching this, whatever time of the day that you chose to join in on this conversation. And for that, I want to thank you. It is important to me to continue to provide the necessary understanding, breakdown, relevance, practical tools that I can to you so that you are fully prepared as you enter the doors as an educator. It is much different if you're a paraprofessional and helping someone than when you are standing in that classroom alone and the responsibility is on you to service the students that you service, whether you're in a inclusion setting or if you are a self-contained in a structured learning setting. Looking forward to helping you more with this July series for domain number 3. Have a great and wonderful evening. I'll see you again next Monday at 7 p.m. Good night, everyone.